Well, good afternoon and welcome to Monday morning's Lunch and Learn. Monday, the 9th, I think it is the 9th by my watch, 9th of the month. 10th, it's the 10th. I'm a day behind, Jason. It's the 10th. Need to get the date right. Anyway, welcome to our Lunch and Learn with Action Coach here in Birmingham. It's great to have you with us. And it's also great to have Jason Teedale from HippoServe. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you can get the date right of the day of the week. But it's great to have you with us. And for those who are listening on either Zoom or LinkedIn or Facebook, we're broadcasting live. Do ask any questions you may have of Jason. We're going to be talking about being the perfect host this Lunch and Learn. So on Wednesday last week, we had Will Stockdale from Boost Design talking about some great tips on building websites, looking at WordPress versus Wordflow and other website designs. But before we can get to building a website, we need to have a web domain name to host it on. And Jason's going to talk a bit about that this lunchtime as well. I'm going to put Jason's contact details up. But Jason, just while your details are up, just tell us a bit more about HippoServe. What do you do?
So what we do all sorts of things to help get you online and to keep you up there and keep your online presence going. So it's all the techie stuff in the background, but we try to do it with a little friendly face and with as much support as we can. What we love doing is having those one-to-ones with clients, find out what their needs are to make sure they get the right service and get the support they need as well, because it is really complicated. It's complicated for me, and I'm a nerd. So if you're busy and you've got a business to run, the last thing you want to be doing is setting up your name servers and DNS entries and things like that. You need someone to help you along the way.
It's one of those simple tasks that for many business owners, it can be outsourced. Somebody like yourselves at HippoServe that can take care of the technological side of it, the technology, and they can get on with running the business day to day.
Absolutely.
I'm loving also, Jason, that since we were last with us on Lunch and Learn, I think your hippo's come to life.
Yeah, so he waggles his ears and blinks and occasionally flares his nostrils as well. So we've also got this one too. So it's these little toy thing here. So
absolutely loving it. So we'll catch up on that in a moment. If you're listening to us on Zoom, on LinkedIn or on Facebook, please do connect with us. We'd love to know where you're listening to us from. Although we're Action Coach Birmingham, Jason also is based in the Birmingham area. We cover the whole of the UK and beyond. So if you're listening to us from further afield, we'd love to know where you are. Ask any questions on those platforms. And if we can't connect with you straight away, I know Jason and myself will make sure that after this Lunch and Learn, we'll connect with you and answer any questions offline as well. So please do keep some questions coming in for us. Also on our Lunch and Learns, you may well have what this is, a light bulb that we at Action Coach call it a BFO, a blinding flash of the obvious. It's that moment when we're connecting bits of information together you may already know, but you're given that opportunity to think, oh, actually, yes, I need to do that in my business, or that makes more sense. I can now apply that in my business. So I hope you get some BFOs this lunchtime from either Jason or myself that you can apply in your business going forwards. As I said, on Wednesday last week, we had Will Stockdale talking about how you can make your website the most valuable asset. Absolutely. That starts with having the right domain name, I guess, Jason. Is that right? It's having that domain name that works well and sort of creates the right impression for your business.
Right at the beginning. That's the very first thing that people need to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are a whole host, I'm sure Jason won't mind me saying, a whole host of providers out there. So as well as telling us, a bit about getting the right domain name, I'm sure, Jason, you'll tell us a bit about what to look for when choosing your domain host.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, good. Well, Jason, I know you've got some great tips for websites, for web domains, etc., for email usage. So over to you, and I'm sure we'll have questions coming in as we go along.
Okay, I'm going to swap screens. Is that okay?
Absolutely fine. Yes.
Okay. There we go.
As I say, just while Jason's doing that, if you're listening to us on Zoom, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, please do keep questions coming into us. It's great to have a number of you logged in on Zoom today. But Jason, over to you. I'm loving the Ladybird book.
Some got generated up online. There's a free site that does it.
I did.
But yeah, so
didn't they go into publishing as well?
Well, So I mean, why have I been asked to speak? Well, as a new business owner, I mean, we deal a lot with new businesses. One of the things we find is when they're getting started online, they don't know where to start, where to begin, and what to do first. There are lots of things you've got to think about, and sometimes it's too easy to sort of buy everything under the sun, get things you don't need, be paying for stuff you don't need, or make mistakes during the course of this. But what makes this job such good fun is learning about loads of new businesses. Last week, I think I've talked to someone who's a first aid company. I learned about those, a motorhome company setting up a new motorhome, and someone who's set up a house clearance company. All talking to loads of different business owners and finding out what they do, and it's great fun. But really, as you mentioned before, your website is a huge investment. Your whole online presence is a huge investment, both money and time. And it's important to get it right because rebranding is costly. So if you get the wrong domain name, if your domain name isn't right or doesn't really reflect what you do, it can be very costly to change that in the future and alter everything on the web name. Same with your website, same with your hosting. It can be difficult if you've got yourself stuck into a contract that's lasting a long time.
And dare I say, Jason, often the web domain, it links into your email address, doesn't it? It's the same domain.
Absolutely. Later on, I'm going to talk about that and why that's important as well, to have those two matching and marrying up. So
I'm thinking email addresses, people have in their contact books. If you then go and change it later on, it's a big job, isn't it? It's a big
job to change, and you almost have to keep the old one running, so you'd be paying for two things as well, especially if it's your email.
Yeah, so I have to say, being honest, Jason, that's where I've found myself at the moment. I've got an old domain and a new domain, and I'm running the old one because I don't want to lose the contacts, or the login details, dare I say.
Yeah. So you've got to keep that and forwarding and all sorts of, it gets complicated. So getting it right the first time is brilliant. So there's sort of 6 things we're going to just look at today. The first thing, probably the biggest section, is domains to die for, getting that domain right at the start. We're going to chat about having an excellent email, what makes email effective, and the best, how to choose the email, and the benefits and drawbacks of having a domain-based email. We look at your web hosting, your hassle-free hosting, how to make that as simple and straightforward as possible. Going to touch on the benefits of backups, why they are still important, even if you've got a relatively static website. If it's cost you a lot of money, do you want to have to pay that again to get it redeveloped? The support that's offered, we're going to talk about that, getting the right support for yourselves, and a little section at the end of how we can help at HippoServe. So starting off then, the very first thing I'd say to anyone, if they chat, because we often have one-to-one chats with people just before they get started, they don't know anything about the internet. What do you do first? The very first thing. There's loads of things you've got to think about. The first thing when you're starting a business is get your domain name before you do anything else. Okay, the domain name is the first interaction these days. It's the first interaction any potential client will have with your company. They'll check your domain name before they'll check your email, before they find your phone number. They'll use your domain name to find your phone number. They'll use your domain name to find how to contact you. So it's that first interaction you have with your customer is often with that name itself. So getting it right is so important.
Hey, Jason, I've got a question from a Joe. I don't know if, sorry, Joe, whether you're a male or female, Joe, but great to have you with us, Joe. Just asking Jason, in terms of domain names, she's got several. Is it advisable to have more than one, or is it better just to have, does multiple domain names cause a problem?
No, not at all. I mean, multiple domain names, and just going on to that section next, you can have as many as you need for your company. And often people do have a few because they want to sort of get a range of different domain names so someone else doesn't get those. And there are different types of domain. You can have ones just have a different ending. So you might have a .co.uk and a .com, or you might just tweak that domain name as well. So just as an example, you can have more than one. You have your master domain name, your main one that perhaps your email's linked to and your website links to, and everything else just points to that. It forwards it on to the main email. So in this case, the main domain name might be happyhippo.co.uk. Then they might decide to get happyhippo.com so no one else gets that. So you've got 2. You could get a .net and a .org and a .uk, and there's thousands you could buy with different endings just to capture them all. And the big companies do that. But at the end of the day, well, actually, I'm going to get Hippo Happy as well. So hippohappy.co.uk and hippohappy.com, because people might, type that as well. So I get both those permutations. A new client getting up, she's been able to get herself a brilliant domain name, exactly what she needed. And it was Time to Network. And she bought 2 versions. She bought Time to Network, as in words, and Time with the number 2 network. She bought both, all forward to the same website, but she's got both. So if someone types in either or, it will go to the right place. It's just great, and you can have as many as you like. I mean, sometimes it gets unwieldy. I have a client who's got 37, and they're constantly being renewed each year, and and you bought them all at different times, so he doesn't quite know where he is with those. But we're consolidating those and trying to get them sorted for him. But yes, you can have as many as you need, and also they're quite cheap. They're not hugely expensive. So most domain names are under £15. So if you do buy one, and that's for a whole year. If after a year you don't need it anymore, just don't renew it and just let it lapse, and you don't have to pay for it again. But get them when you start your company, and it's there in case it is useful. So
just on that, Jason. So Joe's asking again, in terms of domains, is it better for them to be company based or product based, or is there not much difference at all?
What I'm going to chat about later on, I'm just going to go through the different.
Maybe we're jumping ahead. So
great. No, I'm going to answer that question shortly. But it is an important thing about what makes that most successful domain name, and how do you choose? Do you base it on a company or your brand or just a random word? And I'm going to look at some examples of what makes a successful one.
Let's hold the question if you like, Jason. We can crack on and then.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do you get into a typing tangle? Yeah. So when you find your perfect domain name, how easy is it to type in? You might not think that. It's the keyboard. We've got keyboards on our phones, on our tablets, on our computers. But some words are inherently difficult to type in and difficult to spell. People make mistakes. And so once you've got your domain name, think, I like this. It's really good. It sounds good. Try typing it. Type it on your keyboard. Do you make a mistake? If you make a mistake, your customers will. And do they spell it incorrectly? Do people spell it incorrectly? Is it easy to spell wrong? Because if someone spells it wrong, it will go to a page not found, and they might not realize they spelled it wrong. So be careful. You want it's easy to type. How long is it to type? And once you've tried it on a computer, try it on a mobile phone, because they're a nightmare. What if autocorrect starts changing words as you're typing? It can be really difficult on a mobile phone to type a long domain name quickly, and that is the way they're going to get to you. So if they can't get to it, they'll go to someone else.
My top tip, Jason, having a name myself that have to spell out to people to get the right spelling of Stephen. My top tip to my clients: if you've got a domain where you have to spell it out to somebody, it's probably time to think about changing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get that. And I've got so somebody I worked with a while back. It's exact domain name, but it's something similar. They wanted this as a domain name: Aesthetica Treatment Clinic.uk. So, okay, and I was a bit. They told me that. I said, be careful. They wanted it. This is what their business was called. So this is what they wanted. When they went away and registered it themselves. Okay, so they got registered it, and they registered this. They spelt their own domain name wrong when they registered it, so it was incorrect. They missed out the E at the first E at the beginning. And of course, whenever I type it, I spell it incorrectly. So they had to think about what they were going to do with that domain name, because if they're spelling it wrong when they register it, people are going to spell it wrong when they type it. And it's just thinking about. And then once you've got that domain name, once you've chosen one that is easy to spell, and I always say, where at all possible, get it under 15 characters, but the shorter, the better. Okay. Once you've got that.
Characters, sorry, Jason, is 15 characters anything to do with SEO or Google, or is it just memorability?
Once you're starting having to type an essay to get to a website, you're going to give up. I think it's just going to be what you do. I just say just keep it under 15. I don't know if it's anything to do with SEO or anything like that, but it's just if people are getting bored of typing it in, they're going to give up and go somewhere else.
And I guess it comes back to general marketing principles. If you when you're going out, you've got that opportunity to pitch, or you got somebody a business card, and you're asking somebody to write down your domain name or your email, you want it short and succinct, don't you?
Yeah, and so it fits onto things like business cards without the font being too small, or you haven't got to fold out your business card to read your domain name. It looks better as well. It just looks like a sea of words, because you don't get the luxury of spaces in a domain name, so it's also difficult to read if it gets too long. You got to think of people perhaps who have got dyslexia, for example. Without spaces, it makes it even harder. So for accessibility purposes, you want that to be as easy as possible for all your customers, for all users of your website. So once you've got it, once you think, it's perfect, it's exactly the right wording for me, test it then out on family and friends and other people. Get someone else to look at it. You need a second pair of eyes to look at that domain name, because do this way before you commit to branding and marketing and getting it printed and set up. Because what's great for a company might not always work when it's laid out without spaces. And I've got some examples here of companies. These are all genuine. They set up their business and then they bought the domain name, and they didn't, because they were reading it from their point of view, they didn't realize the problem until someone else looked at it, and then there was an issue. So this company, the first company, deals in old IT equipment. They take old IT equipment and they recycle parts of that, and it's called IT Scrap. That's a great name. Scrap IT equipment. They recycle.
I can see what's coming on this one.
When they got their domain name without a space, and for someone else looking at it who's not looking at it from the company name point of view, it's crap.com, and it's got a very different meaning. And what is that about? It reads completely differently. The same is true for this second company, which is an art company. They distribute art, bespoke art, quickly. They deliver it quickly, it gets done. And their company is called Speed of Art. When they get the domain name, when they bought the domain name, speedofart.com, it reads differently when you see it. You don't read it the same for whatever reason. You don't look at it the same way. And I'm not going to show you what this is, but I'm going to bring up, this is quite a famous one. It's a stationery company who specializes in different types of pens, high quality pens. It's called penisland.com. I'm not going to go into what that says, but I'm censoring that for the time being. But I'm sure you can read it and work out what that was, that domain name, when that works.
I can imagine all sorts of responses and people giggling who are listening to us, Jason. But in terms of, you talked about, domain to die for, and I've got a question for me really is, what makes a successful domain? But before we go on to that question, in terms of actually finding out what's available, are you going to cover that later on? Is that something to cover now?
I can cover that now.
Finding out what you can have before you test it on your family, knowing what the options are.
You've got to find them first. And so you go to any hosting company, and usually on their website there'll be a little box where you can search for a domain name, and you just type it in there. Try and go, if you're going to do it, go to the more mainstream companies. Some of the little ones use it to harvest. They see someone's looking for a domain name, they'll harvest the domain name, they'll buy it, and then you won't be able to buy it in the future. But you go to your big guys, your GoDaddy, 123reg, HippoServe. You can go to all those sites. There's a little box on their website. You can type it in, and it shows you if that web address is available. And it'll also show you alternatives if it's not, or give you some alternatives. They may not be suitable what you need, but it will show you things that may well be available to use. And that's always a useful tool. You obviously got to do that, and that shows you what's available. And then you can get a list of possible options, show it to friends and family, and see what they think is the best one for you.
And my other question, Jason, very quickly, on any one of these, if that was what they wanted, is it possible to put hyphens or dots or anything in between the words to space them out, or is that not advised?
Dots, no, because dots are used to sort of delimit the excuse me. Yeah, the website from its sort of the domain type, so whether it's a .co.uk or .com.
Right,
people do use hyphens, and sometimes they, that name's got, so I'll shove a hyphen in, it won't be got. The danger is if someone doesn't put that hyphen in, they go to your competitor or they go to your other website, and it's sometimes, if you can do it without hyphens, it's better.
Ideal. Right, okay. Good point to note.
Yeah.
So what makes a really great domain then? What is it we need to be looking for?
I think when you think of domain name, John, let's play a little game here. So what makes a domain name successful? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of, I'm just going to show you some domain names I've made up that link to real companies, and just to see if you can guess what that company is. They're quite easy. It shouldn't be too difficult. But there's also alternatives that could be. And let's see why is one successful and one not being used, and why one has been used. Okay. So the first one is online social and sharing place.com. Okay. It describes exactly what this website does. It's really descriptive. Okay, it describes what it does.
Absolutely.
What is the company? What is the website that we know and love that this is referring to?
My first protocol would be Facebook.
Yes, absolutely right. Facebook. It could be any number of things, but it describes what it does.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's Facebook. So think about it. Why would Facebook be more successful than a one above? What's different? What's different about it? It doesn't tell you what it does. Facebook could mean anything. If someone said Facebook, what do you think? Well, if you didn't know of Facebook, you would not have a clue about what it did.
No.
What they actually do. Next one, findawebsitenow.com.
Might be HippoServe.
Could be. It's more famous than HippoServe.
Could be Google though.
Absolutely, Google. I mean, Google is now a verb. You Google something. You wouldn't find a website now something.
No.
Okay. What makes it more successful? Just think about what it is. It's a nonsense word, really. I mean, it's a shortened version of Googleplex, I think it was, but it's fairly nonsense when it was made, but it's more successful. So what makes that more successful? Next one, buyandsellstuffonline.com. Could be a number of things.
Yeah, there's a whole host, isn't there? Gosh, you caught me now, Jason. I'm trying to think which one's it. I mean, I always use Facebook Marketplace, you see, but
could be Facebook Marketplace. It could be Amazon. The one I chose, the one I thought was eBay. Okay.
Yes, of course,
eBay.
of course.
Buy and sell stuff online.com. And the final one, very quickly, hosting domains and emails.co.uk.
Well, that would obviously be HippoServe, be my first port of call.
Obviously, HippoServe. I'm not saying mine's a desperately successful domain name. I mean, my daughter thought it up, but it's worked for us. But my point is that quite often when people go for their domain names and think about it, I think I need it to say what I do. I need my domain name to say exactly what my company does, and it ends up being quite unwieldy and long. If you remember the Aesthetical Wellness Centre, it's quite unwieldy, long domain name. But the ones that are most successful are the shortest ones. Sometimes nonsense words. Flickr, for example, is spelt incorrectly, but it's worked. Twitter, it's fairly nonsense word, but it's now in everyday use. These short, catchy words that almost don't describe what the company does, but people have built a brand on top of, are far more successful than the long, descriptive ones. It doesn't always follow. You've got We Buy Any Car, says exactly what it does, but it's also been built into their brand. It does work, but it is quite catchy. We Buy Any Car, 3 short words that run together nicely. Hosting domains and emails.co.uk. It's a bit of a mouthful, and it's difficult to read as well. So I hope that sort of helps people when they're thinking about a domain name, what makes it most successful when they're using it to type in.
Somebody was just asking about shortened versions, so taking the initials. Does that work at all? Is that successful?
It does. I mean,
HDE.co.uk. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it can do. I've got HBMengineering.co.uk. They've shortened something, and it's a name of the company. And if it works, if you can brand it, it works. DHL.com. I mean, that was shortened way before. Probably they had a website, but if you can shorten it and brand it, you know, you don't. I mean, if someone said what DHL, you don't know what they do. If you're an alien from the planet, well, I don't know. We all know it's a logistics company, but because of the powerful brand that's gone behind it, and so it's getting the brand with your domain name and not just using it as describe it. Because you can get a powerful brand with the domain names that you couldn't have got in the past with a phone number. So you work on it and think like that. And I personally think one of the hardest things about starting a business is coming up with your domain name. It really is difficult, and you can spend a very long time thinking about it.
But that's where the likes of yourselves at HippoServe, Jason, can really help. You know, that business owner. But it is so important. It's like it's a fundamental part of starting any business, isn't it? In the 21st century, is to get the domain, get it right, and build a website. Whereas for many businesses years ago, it was sort of an add-on or an afterthought. It's crucial.
I'm seeing a lot more. Yeah, a lot more. And if you've got a domain name that you're not happy with, you can always have an extra that points to it and start branding that. You don't have to remove your old one. You haven't got to get rid of it if you do want to change it. So the next bit, I mean, it's right at the beginning, we talked about emails and the importance of emails. but quite a scary fact is 75% of people don't trust a business using a generic email. Okay, so what I mean by a generic email is there's sort of two examples of types of emails you could have. So if your website is hippoplum.co.uk, a plumbing website, you can have the email at hippoplum. You can have harry@dullmail.com. That can be your email. And by dullmail, it'd be things like your generic emails like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo.co, that sort of email. A generic email that it works, but it doesn't link to your website and it doesn't really have a business feel. 75% of people wouldn't trust that as an email. And also they can be quite spammy. I get a lot of spammy emails from Gmail. If I see something from Gmail offering me coming to, we're going to give SEO service from so-and-so at Gmail, I know, I just don't even answer and don't even look at it because I don't trust it. Far better if you have Harry at hippoplum.co.uk. It's directly linked to the business. Just by seeing that email, I also know what the website is as well. I can go to the website, or just take the Harry at off the front and I can get there. So you've got that's the dedicated email as opposed to the generic email. And they don't have to be expensive because, at the most, when you're with, say, if you go to get with Google, you can link it to a Google account or a Microsoft account. They're sort of £4.50, I think. We do a generic email that's just email by itself for £2.49 a month for that generic email. And you can even reduce costs further because if you might think, I want a lot of emails. I want sales at, I want info at, I want accounts at, and each one's going to cost me £2.49. I can't. Oh no! But you can do that using aliases. So what you do is you have a master account, which is your master mailbox for you, and then you have a master one for another employee, and then you have aliases. And what an alias is, they tend to have no cost. So your main email boxes, for example, on this one, you have your main box, Harry at Hippoplum and Hector at hippoplum.co.uk. So the two employees at Hippoplum. But then you can then have these aliases called info at, sales at, and support at. And all they do is forward to the other boxes. They don't store emails. You can't send emails from them, but they're there. So you can put them on your website. You can put them on your business card. Sales at Hippoplum sounds great. Sounds like you've got a massive company. In fact, it's all going to Harry's mailbox. It's all getting sent to his mailbox. And they don't have a cost, or if they do have a cost, it's very, very small. So you can have loads of aliases pointed to a few mailboxes to make your company feel bigger, sound professional because it's got professional sounding domain name and link to those there.
And these generic emails, I'm sure, Jason, also, if you've got staff coming and going or different people, it doesn't sort of means you don't have to keep changing the email addresses, do you? So, if you've got Harry comes and goes, but he's been selling, using sales at, when Jemima comes in and takes over from Harry in sales, the same email address still works.
And you just repoint it and point it to the new one, and so it's going to them, and you can delete the old emails. So it's not costing you anymore. You haven't got to keep adding more emails all the time and changing them. So it's all going to one place. And these aliases can point to more than one place as well. So if you've got two people in sales, they can go to two different people, the same email, so they can both manage it.
I had a question from Raj, Jason, just going back slightly, because you mentioned at the very end of one of your previous slides, if you want to change your domain, or same applies if you want to change your email, is that a difficult process to do?
If you've got your existing one, and you probably have to keep that because people would be going to that and visiting that site, and you get the new one, and the new one can forward on to the old one, or vice versa. The old one can forward to the new one. You can forward the emails from the old box to the new one, so they're forwarding. And over time, gradually, all the useful emails will go to the new one, and you find that the old one's just getting junk. And there might be a point in the future you think, I'm going to switch this old one off. I've still got one from many, many years ago. I was with NTL, and I had an NTL email, and it was my first. I've got this email, and it's great. And NTL used to be, it was what Virgin Media was before. It was Virgin Media, and it's 20 years old. It still exists. It's still sending me stuff. It's still sending me junk. I can't even remember the password for it, but it's forwarding to my current email address, and it's been forwarding quite happily and carried on forwarding for nearly 20 years. But it's mainly junk coming from it. The only reason why I haven't turned it off is because I can't remember the password to stop it forwarding. So it's just there. So yes, it's relatively straightforward, and and transferring emails and websites from one place to another is something we do and we'll help customers with, and many hosting companies will do that as well.
Brilliant. That's helpful. Hopefully, Raj, that answers your question. But if that doesn't quite answer the question, then please do connect with Jason. We'll put his website details and email address at the end. Sales at HippoServe, I think it is, isn't it?
Sales at HippoServe, which is an alias. I admit it. I haven't got. There's not a huge sales team there. It does get forwarded to my email box or my assistant's email box, so it will get through to us. But it's an alias, yes, absolutely. I'm not proud. Anyway, so the next section after emails, we've looked at domain names. We've looked at your email, which is usually the first two things people set up. Once they've done that, they'll start looking at their website. They'll start looking at, and once you think of your website, you've got to think of somewhere to put it, and looking at hosting it. People say, what is hosting? Oh, it's just, it's something I've got to get to put my website on. With hosting, you've got to remember, this is the engine that powers your website. You need to think of it. Think of your website as like a fast car, a lovely car. Okay, nice. You spent a fortune on this amazing vehicle. It looks fantastic. It's wonderful. But if you put a 1 liter engine in this fast sports car, it's not going to move. It's going to be sluggish. When you hit a hill, when it's going to go slowly up the hill. When you try and overtake, you're not going to be able to. It's not going to have that welly to overtake. So imagine that hosting is that engine, and that engine has got to match the type of website you've got. And you've got to think, do I need a 1 liter engine in powering my car? Do I need a 2 liter or a 3 liter? Whatever, what type of things I need. And so this is what you've got to think when you're looking at your hosting. And this is where the hosting company is quite important. They need to offer you the correct advice. You need hosting that's powerful enough to do your website justice, but you don't want to be paying for resources or services that you don't need. And you also want some hosting that can react quickly to your needs. So if you're about to put some marketing in place, you might expect more visitors. You don't want to spend a fortune on marketing to drive people to your website and then it grind to a halt and not work and have a server error because it's not powerful enough to cope. You need to make sure that it's there and able to cope with what you check at it. So this is where,
Jason, sorry, interrupting you. Is there an easy way for a business owner to determine what sort of kind of hosting they might need? Is it a case of start off small and get bigger, or?
I'd always advise start off small, but take some advice. I mean, most hosting companies, and we're not an exception, offer a no frills basics package, very, very cheap. A couple of quid a month, and that's fine if you're an individual with a little blog who has a couple of visitors a week. It's absolutely fine. It will be no problem at all. But the minute you start increasing your visitors, each time a visitor visits your website at one given point, the hosting behind it has to do some work. So if you've got one visitor, it's doing a set amount of work. You have 2 visitors doing double the amount of work. You get 10 visitors, 10 times the amount of work to get that website sent to them. Each time it's having to do that work. So you need to make sure. So we have one-to-ones and chats with clients who are unsure about what they need. And what we've put on our website is just it's our hassle-free mode. You click on the button, it tells you the type of hosting, what it's sort of suitable for. So it'll say, oh, this site's suitable for a blogger. This site is suitable. This package is suitable for a community group. This package is suitable for a small startup business. If you've got an e-commerce site, they tend to have more hits. They just do. They're sending out more emails. They're doing more things. So you might want the next package up. So that it's having that conversation. If you're not sure, rather than paying a fortune for something you're not actually using, have a conversation. Phone up the support desk. Ask them what is the best thing for your needs. What services do you need for your hosting? And they'll tell you what you need. And then reacting quickly, making sure that if say you can notify your hosting provider, so look, we're going to be doing some marketing. We're going to have to up our server from this day to make sure we can cope with the traffic we're going to get, that we think we're going to get. Hopefully you will get.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So lots to think about.
Yeah. And so the next bit, backups. Okay, if your website might have cost you a lot of money, getting one professionally designed, you're not getting much change out of £1,000 to get a starter website done. They'd be really quite expensive. Even some of the really smaller ones, you're paying a lot of money. And if you've designed it yourself, you might not have cost you anything, but it would have cost you time, because they do take time to design and get built. And what people don't tend to forget is websites are vulnerable. You're a front-facing, but it's just like anyone it's like a shop front. And a shop front is vulnerable. Someone will break in, they'll take something, and you'll have insurance for your shop. If someone comes into your shop and steals all your merchandise, you'll hopefully have insurance to cover that. The same is true. Your website is vulnerable. No matter the best one in the world, the most secure in the world, someone could get into it. And the bigger you get as a company, the more vulnerable you become. And people might try and hack it. They might get into it, might get a virus. Something could happen. So keeping it backed up is important to also get your website up and running in minutes to hours, rather than days to weeks to even months in some cases, if it's a really big website that has gone wrong. So backups are like insurance for your website. And
just to pause you there, and you may be answering this question in a minute, Jason. You may not. So Sandeep is just asking, how often should you back up your website? She does hers once a month at the moment.
That all depends. It depends on a number of factors, actually. And
well, there we go.
First of all, is how regularly you update it. If you don't update yours very regularly, if you only update yours once a month, then once a month is fine, because the one you revert back is not going to be, it's going to be in date still. If you've got a transactional website, and by transactional, it's one that's perhaps you're doing lots of sales, you've got lots of people logging in, and it's storing. It's got your shops in it, it's got your products stored in there. A WooCommerce website, for example, that sort of site, an e-commerce site, you'd want to be backing that up at least every day. A number of my sites, I've got e-commerce, I back up the site every 4 hours, because they've got so much traffic coming in. Some even more than that, you can do up to every hour. Just back up the database part regularly to keep it, make sure it's backed up, and to make sure it's there. Because if it all goes wrong, you need to get it back up and running very quickly.
Yes.
All right, if you lose data. So the things to consider when you consider backup is the initial cost of the website, how regularly it's updated, and how valuable the data is on that site. If you've got customer data, if you've got their details on there, you need to make sure you back up any changes they make to their accounts. Because if the customers come in and they've made a change to their account and then it goes down, and you back it up with an old backup, they're going to have to go in and change things again in their account. Or it depends on what they do or what your website does. And you've got to think, how much will it cost you if your e-commerce site or your shop is shut? What is it costing over? If it's shut for a day, how much is that going to cost you? And backups, they can be quite reasonable, starting at sort of $7.99 a month to keep your website backed up. So it is. You don't want to use it. Hopefully, you'll never have to use your backup. It's like insurance. Hopefully, you'll never have to use your car insurance. But when you do need it, you're very glad of it when it's there.
And Jason, just for my benefit, backing up your website is a different process to backing up your servers, or is it one and the same?
Your servers, it's the website is on the server. So if you're backing up your hosting, some include backup tools. If you're clicking that backup button, the manual backup button, that's the same. It's backing up. It's not backing up the whole server. It's backing up your portion, your shared bit of the server where your website is. And manual backups are great. You just got to remember to do them. And most sort of hosting sort of platforms include a manual button. Automated backups are best. Back up every night or regularly, so you don't have to think about it, and you just check perhaps once a month that the backups are being taken, and it's there.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so just to summarize, with a good quality backup, you can get your website back up and running in hours rather than days or weeks. I think that's the important thing, is how quickly you can get it back up. There can always be, the larger the website, the longer it will take to get back up, but it can relatively quickly if you've got a good backup.
Backing up, Jason, is that something that's generally done as part of a package? I know HippoServe, you offer backup service, don't you? Is it something you have to ask for separately, or is it included?
Usually, hosting companies back up their stuff. They back up their servers, they back up all their things, because we have to make sure it's there. But we can't necessarily back up the whole and if we do, restoring it can take a long time. By taking a backup of your website, it's very easy to restore. It's very easy to get back up and running straight away. And usually there's a manual thing all built into most services. The automated service, it tends to be a bolt-on. It's an add-on, so you can buy extra. So we have an add-on. GoDaddy have an add-on where you have your site backed up, and you pay extra. You pay for the storage space. And always look, when you're looking for a backup, where is it stored? Because if the backup is being stored on your server space, which is sometimes the case with manual backups, you need to get it off. You need to take it away, because if the server goes down and you backed up on your server, your backup is useless. Always look for backup solutions. We store ours off-site. They're completely separate. They're encrypted. They're stored in the cloud off-site, so we can get them back. Even if Hippo Server Towers burns down, we can still get your website back up and running, because the backups are not stored with us. So it's and the same if you're manually backing up your website. Once you've backed up, download it, store it on a hard drive somewhere else, so it's not in the same place. So you've got it
separate,
there.
Yes. Really important.
Yeah. And the only other thing is your host there for when things go wrong? What's the support like? Are you stuck in a queue? Are you waiting a long time to get that help, to get that support? And the best way to try that is when you phone up and try and speak to them when you're setting up and you want to query in a question.
I guess,
do they offer?
To that last point, you sometimes may only find out if they're there when things do go wrong. So how can we preempt that? What could we be looking for?
It's difficult. I mean, when you're starting off, it's always great, to be able to get some advice on what to do. And that advice, the advice that isn't a hard sell, so no obligation advice, and the type of onboarding and help you get when you're being onboarded. And of course, it is difficult. You don't know, but it's always worth perhaps having a look at your Trustpilot reviews about the support that's offered from a hosting company. What is it like when something goes wrong? Some are fantastic, some are great, and you get support ever so quickly if something technically goes wrong. I've worked with some brilliant ones. I've also worked with places that have been a nightmare and you can't get help at all. So it is checking those reviews, checking Trustpilot to see what support is, what it's like. And certain things to look for. I say it's the advice you get, the advice line. If you go to the advice line, is it a sales line or is it genuine advice? That's something you've got to look out for. What is the service onboarding like? How are you helped when you get started? Because often you buy your hosting and you're confronted with a dashboard of how to set things up, and the mind boggles when you read it. It's so technical. So you've got to think, what help am I going to get that set up? Do I need to switch everything on this platform?
Yeah.
If you're transferring a website or emails from one place to another, is that transfer free or you have to pay for it? What's the support like? Is it personal support or is it a huge call center and you speak to a different person each time? How helpful is the person and how friendly are they? Are you treated like an idiot when you've lost your password? Because we all do that, and I hate that when I phone up and it's like, oh, fuck. You almost get that, for crying out loud. What do you mean you don't know how to do? And it's like, I'm sorry, I just don't know. You want someone who's going to think, well, actually, it's not your job to know how this works. It's my job as a support agent to know how it works. It's not yours. And if it's confusing, I'll help you. And also, what's the emergency support like? If something goes wrong, what is the emergency support? Is it 24/7? Are you someone there on hand to get it up and running?
Is support generally available for just the one person in the organization that made the initial contract, or is it available to anybody in the organization? How does it work generally, Jason?
I think there's a point of contact. There's the person who set it up, and the person who's paying the bill, or the agent for that person will have that support for that organization. So from our point of view, it's if someone, we work with a number of different organizations, and we have points of contact within there. Someone who's maybe the IT support will contact us with regard to that. Sometimes it's the person who pays the bill or some form, or it's someone who works for them. They just contact us and get that help they need.
Brilliant. There's some really good things there to look for, isn't there? When it's not just about looking for the right domain name, it's looking for the right email package. It's about looking for all of these other things as well. That's really important.
Yeah, and I think it's such a technical industry still, but everyone needs it.
Mm.
And my thing is that if you get a mobile phone, you're not expected to sort of set it up and link it to the network and put all your IDs in to link it to connect with EE, or EE do it for you, or O2 do it for you. It's done. And with websites, it's still very tricky. A lot of it's left up to you or your designer, and it's making sure that the designer will work with the hosting company to make sure everything works together and get things set up for you. But in
Another
terms of
question for my namesake, good choice in name. Got a question from a Stephen. How long is it ideally would you register a domain for? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? Is there an ideal?
there's a choice, and sometimes it's people register for a year, and then if it's a startup company, they might register for 1 year. Then when the renewal comes, they might say, actually, things are going well, I'm going to re-register for 3 years now. I'll keep it safe. It doesn't make any difference. It's just less hassle the longer you do it for. It doesn't with domain names. Sometimes it can be cheaper if you rent it for a longer period of time, slightly, but it's this so reasonable price anyway. Obviously, that you tend to pay. It's not much less. So it's more of a convenience thing. If you've registered your domain name for 5 years or 10 years, you haven't got to worry about it for that length of time. The danger, of course, is you forget who you've registered it with, and you suddenly need passwords and stuff to log in 10 years down the line. Whereas if it's done every year, you remember each year who it's with. Because we do a lot with that. People who've forgotten who their domain provider is, the domain name provider is, and they can't even access it. They're just
Behind the scenes, you can find that out, I'm sure.
It's tricky sometimes, especially with .coms. If you've forgotten your password, you've got to go to appeal through the ICANN network in the US.
Right,
and sometimes you've got to lodge a legal appeal to try and get ownership of your domain if you've lost everything. So it's not as straightforward as you'd imagine it would be, because you've got to prove it's you. So your name isn't hijacked by someone else. Yeah. Otherwise, anyone could just nick a domain name.
Yeah, there's just one follow-up question again from Stephen. So domain and hosting, do they need to be with the same company, or can they be with separate companies?
They can be completely separate. Although it's sometimes useful to have everything with one. It's the same for where everything is. It's all in one place. And if you need to make change in settings, you only change to your settings, for example, your email settings. You've got one port of call. You haven't got to think, oh, who's my support person for my domain name? Or who is my support person for email? I do work with people who've got hosting with us. They've got email with someone else. They've got a domain with someone else. And yes, it can be done. It's no problem. And if you've got a good deal with that, it's fine. Some people just say, I want it all in one place. We can help people move all to one place as well. It's whatever you want to do best, but it is possible to do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, just quickly, how we can help. There's two little things, dead quick. Oh wow, it's 50 minutes already. Wow, look at that.
Yes, time flies, but it's all I love your hippo there. I have to say, I'm not a customer of Jason's, but he kindly sent me one as well. Lovely little hippos. If you sign up with Jason's business, you get one of these in the post. Brilliant.
Yeah, look at that. Who else gives you a free hippo?
Absolutely.
Anyway. So it's just we can help. We hosting, email, and domains are the three things we've talked about today. So secure hosting, consultation about hosting. So one-to-one chat. If you want a chat to us, no obligation. Have a one-to-one with what you need, how we can help. A wide range of hosting plans to suit your needs. Free transfer if you need that. And with any hosting, you get free business email for a year as well. A free business email for a year. And a free hippo. And we also work with a range of different designers. And your previous person who spoke, Will, we work with him.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So we chat with different designers. If you're looking for website design, we can talk to a range to suit your needs. Different designers there. And the other thing we do, we've got Hippo Care Plan, which is really popular now. And that includes the backup we talked about. It includes keeping your website updated, making sure it's up to date and secure. That's important to reduce the possibility of hacks. We optimize the performance. We look at install a few third-party applications to help speed up your website, optimize security, and a manual. So a person actually goes in and does a manual health check. It's not all automated. So there's the Hippo Care. We look at it there.
Still real people working in the background, Jason.
Yeah, that's it. So, and you can, if you want a chat with us, you can book a one-to-one with Hippo. And there's a web address there, Zoom us, hipposurf.co.uk, Zoom us if you want a one-to-one. go to that link there and you can book a slot, and we can chat to you about some of your needs you might have.
Brilliant.
With your hosting.
Thank you so much, Jason. I've kept your details on the screen there. We, as I said earlier on to our Lunch and Learn listeners, we last Wednesday talked all about website design, and today, all about looking at getting the right domain, the right email. We've looked at some comical examples of domains that don't work, some great tips on domains that will really help your business to stand out from the crowd. And it is so important, isn't it, Jason? We've seen more than ever over the last 18 months how important digital marketing and that window to the world online is to any business, to get it up and running, and particularly in those early years, having the right website, having a functional website that works, it's quick, that's efficient. And I know you do a lot of work around website speed and testing. You've talked to us about that on Lunch and Learn before, but getting the right email addresses, getting the right domain is critical to getting your business up and running, and getting business and generating business.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for all you shared today. If you want to talk to Jason, as I say, Jason's contact details on there on the screen there. Book a hassle-free conversation with
absolutely
hassle-free with HippoServe. Can't recommend Jason enough. I'd really have that conversation. It costs you nothing to look at the options, whether it's transferring your existing domain and emails, or whether it's looking at buying new ones, or in the early days of setting your business up. Have a conversation with Jason. He knows everything there is to know about websites and domain and email usage. So it's fully recommend. And Jason, is it fair to say that your systems and your services work on all platforms, whether it's Mac, whether it's Windows, etc.?
Yes, I mean, or Linux, mobile phones, everything. So yes, hosting that makes no difference to where
you've got a knowledge and a background in all of them. So absolutely, have that conversation. That's something else you want to talk about as well. If digital marketing is just one aspect of your business you want to have a conversation about, we have got 30X program, which is 30 years of business experience, 30 minutes a day, or it could be, you don't have to do it every day, but 30 minutes a day, 30 days to work on your business, just £30 to sign up. So if there's other aspects of your business, whether it's financial acumen, whether it's looking at your plans longer term, whether it's on your systemization, any aspect of your business, we'd love to have that conversation with you. So please do get in touch with us here at Action Coach. Again, happy to give you a free conversation, free telephone call or Zoom conversation, 45 minutes to have a chat about you and your business, to learn a bit more about each other and whether our 30X program might be the right thing for you. And if it's domains and emails, contact Jason. So I hope you've really found the Lunch and Learn today useful. Jason, it's great having you back with us. I know it's been a few months since you were last with us, so it's good to have you back on with us. And we look forward to booking you in again.
Okay, great to be back.
I think last time you were with us, you talked about your business journey, didn't you? And it was good learning about that as well.
Yes.
So a good friend of us here at Lunch and Learn. So Jason, we'll certainly be booking you in, perhaps in the middle of the summer. With some summer months, we'll get you in a few months' time.
Okay.
Maybe out on your safari with the hippos themselves. Who knows? But,
maybe if we're allowed out, yeah.
I'm sure we will. I hope my hopes are held high for the 17th, so a week today. Let's see where we get to. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all our listeners. Just double checking our. Thank you, Roz, who's just commented as well. Very informative, Jason, and clearly explained. So thank you to Roz and others who've been listening to us this Lunch and Learn. If you have any questions and you're listening to us later on today or in the week, please do still connect with us online. Please do connect with us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on the YouTube channel, or email us direct. We'd love to have that conversation with you. But for now, stay well and stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're talking all about networking and relationship management, relationship marketing with Peter Higgs, who's the Executive Director of BNI in Birmingham and the Midlands. He's going to tell us all, not just about BNI, but how we can make the most of that relationship marketing opportunity to move our business forward. So we look forward to hearing from Peter on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. But for now, stay well, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at 12. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jason. Bye-bye.